we stuck to those values. So I didn't struggle as much as I see teenage, or as much I saw others struggle during my days.
That's so interesting. So I mean, no struggles with like temptation and peer pressure. Did you find that you were so grounded in your values that it didn't really sway you?
Peer pressure is always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, peer pressure to go. Nowadays there was something that was called break dance.
Aha.
And by the time I was in Form 4, break dance was at it. And so there was always the temptation to go and join my peers on that. But then a reminder of where I'm coming from. I have responsibilities, and I also have values to keep. And that keeps you in check. Yes, but temptations are there. Pressure is always there at whatever age, even beyond teenage.
Yes. Oh yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Lorraine, you're 20.
Yes.
So teenagehood is just a little fresher for you, like the memories and the the ups and downs. Can you tell me what your teenage years were like?
My early teenage years, I was a tomboy.
Okay.
So it was easy. I think for me, I was a tomboy because it was like a emotional protection. When you act more like a boy, you wouldn't have girl problems.
Oh.
So I'd rather, hang out with the guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have issues with the boys.
Yeah.
And it becomes easy. But as I grew up and went to high school, because in my late primary school, I was in a boarding school. Then I went, which was all girls. So when I went to boarding also, I was in a purely girls school. So I think that softened me up a bit, and now you start to understand the girl world, and now the opposite sex, and all these pressures just come rolling down.
Right.
Yeah. So I think one of my struggles understanding was self-esteem.
Yeah.
Was something I struggled with, I guess, till late last year.
Yeah.
Because I usually felt like a duff. I like telling people this story. I felt like a duff. For some odd reason, I found myself in a group of 3 most of the time. Then I used to think I'm the duff, the third one, like the ugly one, the more approachable one. A duff is in every group of friends. 3 friends. There's usually the most approachable one who's not so good looking. Then there are the other 2. So we'll get to the duff. You lose the duff to get to the other 2. The ones who look nice. Yeah. So that was something I thought I was for the longest time possible. Yeah. Because when you don't have so many guys looking your side, you start having all these thoughts, and you're like, maybe to meet your brother group, And it was a bit hard, but these are not things that you can really talk about in the open.
Right.
And also there are things that you deal with internally. They're just internal. Yeah. Maybe by a bit from external pressure.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something I had to deal with, and I came to understand. By the way, you're pretty, and you are not a duff. Yeah. And even if you're a duff, you're a pretty duff. Such things, and basically that. And also I think something that helped was also my Christian background. Okay. Because once I get to see myself how God sees me, some things tend to fade away. Okay. Some emotions tend to fade away. Yeah. So there was that part.
That's so interesting. So if you were to break it down to like 3 main issues or frustrations that you felt yourself go through, or that your friends also struggled with in your teenage years, and I can imagine it was different when you were 13 from when you were 17. Yeah. But what were the 3 things that you felt were the biggest pain points for you as a teen?
One, being a teenager, on your academics, the pressure of always being at the top and always excelling. There was that, and then the fact that experiences, teenagers, your friends, maybe you've gone for a holiday and then you guys are coming back and everyone has these stories to tell. So you're wondering, now what am I going to say? I went to church my whole holiday, it won't be something really interesting for people to hear. Yeah. And also, as I said, body insecurities you have as a person. Maybe thinking, am I really pretty enough? Is my size the right size? Right. Do I cut the mark? Does someone really look at me twice when I pass by, such things? Yeah. And they might seem a bit, that should not worry you, but they do get to someone's head.
Oh yeah. And it causes stress, trauma, pain, depression, just like anyone, any other adult. So Margaret, what are some of the biggest concerns that you've heard from young ladies and gents who come to you, and what do they boil down to from a mental health perspective? What is the issue there? Yeah.
There are many issues that present when it comes to mental health, because whatever affects adults also affects young people, teens, and also affects children. But I think majority or the bigger number present with depression, feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, that are not just an issue of self-esteem, but has got deeper into pathological level.
Okay.
Feelings of where they present with sadness.
Yeah.
And probably at this point, because we are talking about mental health, let me start off with that so that I do not forget about features of depression, as as we had that conversation. They will come presenting with sadness or teariness, or and then they also present with having lost interest in previously pleasurable activities. They used to go out with friends. They are no longer going out. And today, even as parents, when you find your child who used to go out with friends, and sometimes we are happy that no, now they're at home, there's no negative influence. It was nice to explore, why are they at home? Or a child who is has always been on phone, and all of a sudden they have no interest for the phone. Well, we know phones also have their issues, but it's good to explore why have they lost that interest. Changing eating patterns, changing sleep patterns, loss of concentration, and academically their grades may be going down, and excessive fatigue. They no longer have the motivation to go out and do what they always do, go to school, get involved in household chores, what they have been doing. And then, what we're talking about in indecisiveness, poor concentration, inability to make decisions, even very simple decisions. So do I wake up? Do I do this? And then, what we call the triad, feelings of hopelessness, uselessness, and worthlessness. And lastly, thoughts of death, wanting to commit suicide. And sometimes they have a plan, and sometimes they have even attempted. So those are some of the things that I've seen present, among many others. But I think I'm talking about depression because it's the most common.
Right, yeah. Lorraine, did you ever hear any of your friends use that word, or did you feel that way at any point? Did these feelings that you explained earlier, did they sort of grow to that extent where you would say that, given the signs and symptoms that she's described, that you would say that perhaps at some point you were depressed? Or do you know any of your friends that were?
Personally, I don't think it was that bad. It never got to that point. But yeah, I know a couple of people who got to that point. And for one scenario, it was basically academics, because this person was not really good in academics, but was good in something else. But growing up in an African home, your grades have to be high. You need to get the papers, and all these other things will not earn you money when you grow up. So it was so bad, and there were attempts of suicide. So they had to go through seeing a psychologist and being taken through the whole process. And I think also it's important for parents to understand that apart from academics, there are other things that young people can pursue. I can be good in sports, I can be good in music, and it's supposed to, it's okay. It's okay. Just support me in that area and maybe I will thrive. But this academics, sticking to academic as the only, being one-minded, that academic is the only way someone can succeed, might take a toll on people. Because if I'm not good in this, then I'm not good enough. And that's the worst feeling to have, because now you start feeling like maybe I'm irrelevant in this world because I cannot achieve a certain grade, or I cannot achieve a certain academic standard. But academics is really not the end of life. I believe if we look into other directions, maybe I might be good at handiwork, I might be good at making things with my hands, I might be good at creative, maybe I'm just funny, I'm a comedian by nature, I can make people laugh. And when we learn to accept these other things, it becomes easy even for the young people want to open up to your parents and actually talk about it, and to go about life pursuing that.
Right. It goes back to the triad you said: uselessness, hopelessness, worthlessness.
Sometimes even excessive guilt because I've not performed. Yes, I've not gotten those grades that my parents expect from me.
What can parents do to release their children of this kind of pressure, to allow them to just be? What are some of the tools or things that parents can start adopting ASAP, so that you don't pass on this kind of immense pressure over onto their children, especially when it comes to academics?
I think it's important for parents to realize our children are gifted, but gifted differently. There are those ones who will be very bright they sit in class and immediately they get it and they get their A's. There are those who struggle to get there, but they get there eventually. But I think if parents would affirm, identify what is it about a child that is good for them. They are very good at school. They are very good at home. They will make sure that their house is neat. Affirm them. Let them know that you appreciate them and there's something that they are good at. Over time, they grow, their self-esteem builds up, and they're even able to explore other areas, probably even that same academic performance, to work harder, because they already have a platform of acceptance. You have made them realize that they are good. They are resourceful. They will add up to something. They have a destiny. There is something that is working out for them, and help them explore what is that something. Like she mentioned, music. Or sports. And then when they're comfortable at that, they can be able to also excel at what else they need to in life.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not just going back to like, why are you always bringing back E's? Surely. I got you a tutor, I got you. So it's more like, hey, I really love what you did with your hair. You should try that. You should be doing it on my hair, or do it on your sister. This is great. We should take you to a hairdresser and you try and get like, extra skills or something. So focus on what they're good at, and try and lift them up on that perspective.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have to take a break, but we'll be right back. When we come back, we'll talk about FOMO, which you touched on a little, fear of missing out and their experiences, and how do you just like brush it off, because it's not the end of the day. I mean, it's not the end of the world, rather. We'll be back in a moment, ladies and gents, so don't go anywhere. and some of the frustrations or struggles that they go through. We've got Margaret, who's a counseling psychologist, and we've got Lorraine, who's a young lady, 20 years old. And before the break, in the first part, you were breaking down some of the three things that you felt were the biggest struggles. One of them essentially was FOMO, fear of missing out, and that, you know, people go and do these fun, exciting things, and you're like, I was just here, just keeping the chair warm for you, which in that moment can feel like the worst thing ever, that you didn't make it to the party, that you weren't invited for that trip, that you didn't, you know, get this like cool new phone that everyone else seems to have. How did you reconcile with that? How did you make peace with that? And did you, as you know, as a teen? Yeah.
Yes, I did. One, at first it was hard, because there's that pressure that everyone is doing it. Why am I not? You know, why just throw caution to the wind and actually go and do it?
What were some of the things specifically? And you can be as honest as possible here, that people were doing and you felt like, I'm missing out.
One, everyone is in a relationship, so why am I not in one? You know, and then everyone is going out, but this is still struggles we go through till now. Everyone is going out, everyone is doing alcohol and drugs. You know, why shouldn't I just also go through with them, try them?
Yeah.
But you see, for me it's different, because growing up in a Christian background and solidifying that, going through CU in high school and even right now in university, there's some things that are just, when you look at the moral brackets, they're just not part of you, of that background.
Yeah, by CU it's Christian Union.
Christian Union, yeah. So, one, understanding that whatever I do can also be fun. You make your own fun. I can make it by myself. And some of my friends and I, we decided to just create our little heaven down here, as the song says, and hanging out with your friends and being busy, going out, ministering. For me, I find that fun. I find more joy in that than just going out, getting high and getting wasted.
Yeah.
It's more fun because I can be able to remember each and every detail, looking at the positives in what I am doing instead of looking at the negatives in what I am not, or the positives in what I'm not doing or what I'm missing out. Because when I see it from that perspective, then what I am doing becomes fun.
Right.
It becomes interesting, and you'll find that even someone else wants to do it.
Yeah.
So you can actually create your own type of, because that type of fun might not be my type of fun, and it is okay. There's totally no problem with that. If you have fun by going out, you go out. But if I don't, it's okay. And reconciling that and just coming to terms with it, I think that helped me a lot, because now I don't have that such pressure anymore, because I'm be like, oh, we're going for this concert, it's a Christian concert and it's going to be fun because I know the artist, I can sing through all the songs. You know, and be crazy. I can lift my hands and dance, and it's okay, you know. And I think that just kind of helped me, and also the support system I had. You see, if I have friends who keep reminding me how I'm missing out, then I'll always feel like I'm being left out. But if I have friends who are encouraging me and we're in the same road, then it becomes easier. It becomes much more easier for me. So I think your support system and the guys who you hang around with matters a lot. It also adds up to how these things will affect you, because they might be just bringing on some negative vibe, because you'll always feel like you're the odd one out, you know, you're being left out. But when you find people who actually make you feel like this is where you're supposed to be and it is okay and it is fun, by the way, we can have our own type of fun, it becomes much more easier to cope with such things.
It seems like you went from having FOMO, fear of missing out, to JOMO, which is joy of missing out. That's a new word, by the way. It's a new acronym that started off from people being like, oh my gosh, everyone's going out, I should go out. And then you go out and you're like, actually, I'm okay being at home and having a card game with a few of my friends. So I'm gonna go back. So you guys do your thing, because I'm happy, and I'm happy doing my thing, which is so brilliant. And it's beautiful to see how your peers were the people who helped, you know, affirm that your path was okay, and you didn't need to fit in and sort of go against your values. So what are some of the other things that would help a young lady or a young man, you know, a teen, to be able to step out of that, you know, peer pressure and then feeling like they're missing out, and if they don't show up for this party or they don't drink, that's it for them?
Before I answer you, I think I'd really want to commend her.
Yeah.
She's done very well.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of her.
I mean, you're not
Yes,
the average
yes.
teen.
It gives us a lot of hope
Yeah.
that, there's hope.
Yeah.
One of the other things that would add value in helping one stand out is knowing really who you are. Self-awareness and knowing that you are okay. You have everything going for you. Appreciating who you are is important. And then having a value system. If you realize what she has said, that she has a value system, and that's something I would encourage every parent to encourage their children towards forming a value system, something to fall back to, something that guides them through the paths of life, even when they leave home, and she is on her own right now at the university. It's important. She has also mentioned about friends. And one of the things I also would encourage parents is also to get to know who are the friends of their children.
So, and how do you do that? Do you invite them over, or what do you do?
You invite them over.
Yeah.
You invite them over. Value them, because when you value them and you respect them, you are actually communicating that you respect your own child. Invite them over, and Richard, when you go to the university to visit, get to meet them.
Okay.
And also appreciate them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then you know that who is it that is working with my child?
Right.
Because then you know that if they're of the right character with the right values, then you know that they will support your child.
So we actually had Sonny Kanake here, who wrote a book, Teens, Let's Talk, and one of the chapters is Who Am I? Which goes back to what you're saying.
Yes.
Are you knowing that you are enough and that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Yeah. And another one of her chapters actually touched on peer pressure. And there's this quote that I love so much, and it says, you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So, sort of like show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. So what should parents do if they try to get to know their kids' friends a little bit more, and then they start to see red signs, warning signs, oh gosh, run, there is danger here. How do you go about, or maybe it's even someone that they're dating, or they're getting cozy, cozying up to. How should they go about trying to, handle that, to help them? Yeah.
I think if you have a good relationship with your children, and they trust you, and they know that you mean the best for them, and you have been talking, you have approved some friends. When you bring up an issue that you are concerned about a friend, then I am sure they will be able to listen to you. And of course, you will have reasons why. These are the things I have noted. If we have the same value system, we can pray about this. We can watch out this, some more. I think every parent has that responsibility to help them make that decision.
Would you advocate for, at any point in time, just saying, no, you cannot hang out with so-and-so?
I think it can get to that. It should get to that, especially the younger they are, the more saying no, is important. Because remember, they are not younger children or younger teens, do not have the capacity to make some very significant decisions. So the parents still have that responsibility to guide decision making. And therefore, there are times when you say, no, I do not want to see that. I do not, that relationship is not going to end up well. And we need to work around that.
And then I guess the older they get, the more you need to step away, I presume,
you
right?
Give reason.
20, 24, 20. You sort of just allow, or what should a parent do? Because I imagine the younger you are, the easier it is to be like, hey, no. But Lorraine, she's in uni and she decides, actually, these are the people I want to hang out with. How do parents show up then? How do they show up for their children?
Again, I guess probably more or less the same. You give reason why, that you have doubts about this relationship, you have doubts about this friendship. These are the things that you have been able to spot out, and therefore ask them to look at that. Ask them to be able to also evaluate that. Remember, they have grown a little older, so their decision making is also much more mature. So if you have had a good relationship and they know that you mean well for them, then they will step back and say, let me think through this. I know there are times when, a parent has put down that, and yet it has not been appreciated. Then you support them through that work. And as you point out, that it's not the right thing to do, but that's where you are at. And then having a good self-esteem means, therefore, when you make decisions, you can also be able to handle the consequences of the decisions that you make.
So, Lorraine, you said that there were 3 main things you struggled with. The first was, the pressures of excelling in academics, fear of missing out, and, these experiences, and you shared how you dealt with those 2. The third was your body and your body image and being comfortable in the woman that you were stepping into.
Yes.
So how did you get to be comfortable with your body and the changes, and what did you struggle with at different points of your teenagehood? Can you share with us?
Yes. First of all, I usually think I have really big eyes. So
What?
So yeah, I feel like I usually have big eyes. So I wasn't comfortable with just having.
I mean, do you still feel like that now?
Yeah, and they're beautiful and
they're gorgeous.
and
I'm like,
absolutely.
at no point when I met you, before even we started filming, at no point did I go like, wow, she's got big eyes. So like, what? It's so funny for you.
Funny, body insecurities are usually more or less internal. Even when you say like, how do you even think that you're like that? But in yourself, like, you guys do not see it. I'm the one who is experiencing it.
And in your head, they're like size of oranges. But they're gorgeous. They're beautiful
so
eyes.
It was so hard. I remember when immediately I finished my class 8, around I was 14. And I never used to go to the local shop, like the home shop. When my mom sends me, I have to shower, I have to put on makeup so that I can feel I'm able to go out. Right now, looking back, it's really funny because I'm like, really, it's just
like the kiosk.
The kiosk at home. And it was so hard for me because it was like
you
my
put
eyes
on makeup
to go to the kiosk.
I just
imagine. It was so funny, but right now it's interesting. And I felt like I have a big tummy, and you have to have this small body, and it was just a lot. And also comparison. I think that's where the major problem comes in. When you keep comparing yourself with everyone else, you'll never see the good thing in you. You'll always be like, she has something better than me. If I had her body and I had her eyes and that hair, maybe, I'll be somewhere. But one thing I've come to realize, there'll always be someone prettier than you. There'll always be somebody more good looking than you. And it's okay. Because somebody somewhere is also saying, like, if I had her eyes, if I had... And it's opinions, but what I think about myself matters more. And sometimes, sadly, you'll find that it's coming from other people outside, not even from you yourself. Someone's telling you, you should do something about your weight, you should do something about this, and they're entitled to their opinion, but it should not overrule yours at the end of the day. I think for me, what really helped me, which still goes back to my values and being raised in a Christian family, is that knowing that God sees me and sees a masterpiece, that just blows my mind, and I'm like, there's nothing you can tell me to put me down. That is one thing that has come to help me a lot. My Christian background, my Christian friends, and even my other friends who just keep on telling me, your friends also play a big role, because I'll be telling my friends like, you guys, I have a big stomach, I really need to lift some weights and run. So when I was sitting running, I'd be like, Lola, by the way, we're not going to do that. You're just beautiful. I don't know. Then we should switch bodies. And that also gives you confidence to be okay with wearing your own body. And that's something beautiful. People, you surround yourself with the affirmation that God sees you and sees a masterpiece. That just gives me some sort of comfort that it's okay to be me. Your body is okay, there's nothing with it, and over time I've come to overcome that. So normally I would go to the mirror and look at what I would change, but nowadays I go and I'm like, who is that beautiful person over there, and
Lauren, what is this is just so incredible, just seeing such a young lady so confident and so self-aware and self-assured. I mean, that's just if this was who we were speaking to, there would be no show. We'd be like, the kids are great, they're fine, they're great. But I'm not even taking away from the fact that I'm sure you had some really low moments and you struggled with a lot. But just seeing where you are today and hearing you talk about how your friends were a big part of that, and also obviously your value system. Your parents must be very proud of the young lady you are today. Okay, we've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about social media. Yeah. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, good people. We've been talking about teens and depression, right? Because this month is dedicated to Teen Self-Awareness Month and mental health awareness too. And I've got Margaret, who's a counseling psychologist, and I've got Lorraine, who's this incredible young lady who's only 20 but sounds like she's 40 years old and has lived enough lives to know and to be so self-aware. Actually, during the break, we were just like, isn't she incredible? Margaret and I were just doting on her. So social media forms a big part of our lives, and I don't know if there's anyone who's not really at some level on social media, whether it's their company, it's them, whether it's like a Pinterest account or Facebook page or whatever. And it's getting harder to separate yourself from it. Are you on social media?
Yes, I am.
Are you on social media, Margaret? Yes, you are. Okay, I'm on social media too. Raise your hand if you're at home and you're like, yeah, girl, I'm on social media as well. And I've found myself many times sitting with my friends and thinking, if we thought high school was hard enough as it was, imagine doing that at a time where social media is everywhere, you know? How was social media, how did it affect, you know, just you sort of navigating through teenagehood? Did it affect at all? Did it influence?
Yeah. Social media comes with a lot of pressure. And a lot of expectations. A lot of expectations. There are buzz that I think in social media is where now the society determines who you should be. You know, it's like giving you a guideline. It's supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be like this.
You should wear that. You should wear your hair should look like
you know. If you do something wrong, if you find yourself in fashion police and you're like, you're just trying to, you know, go out, not really minding. And social media right now plays a really huge role, especially. It's so sad, especially when you're not in the good side of it. You find yourself being trolled or just going through a lot of backlashing and stuff.
Did you get trolled at any point?
Thank God, no, not at any point. Yes, but I've seen some people get trolled along, and it never ends well. Because especially for the guys in the limelight, I think it's harder for them. Or even someone just going out. There's this time there were these VR posts going around, memes going around, and they just like focus on something wrong. Someone's good and everything, but we'll focus on what is wrong and highlight that. And it was so hard. I think it's hard for such people. But I think on an individual, coming down to these other people who are not out there, I think the hard part is when we think that, especially for the guys who are more into social media. Like I wake up, it's either Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook, because now it's like I am looking at what is happening and I have to match up. And you see on social media, people can put all sorts of things. I'll have filters on. You do not know how I really look when I wake up. You know, somebody will have done makeup even before they take, you know, I woke up like this, but really you just went and did your makeup before you took that photo. And I'll want to match up to that, and it becomes a lot, because what if I actually cannot attain those standards? You see, that's when someone starts going down into depression and feel self-esteem goes low, and it affects so much. Who
are the people that you looked up to or followed and sort of were like, ooh, I like everything?
I think the usual Kim Kardashian, you know, she's like, you have a bomb body, so, you know, if I had that, maybe.
Kim Kardashian.
Natalie Tower. And the likes. And you just want to be that. But I feel like if we separate ourselves we limit the time we spend in social media. A friend of me challenged me and was like, what if you just have actually human interaction and not have this gadgets for some time? You'll come to find that on the ground, people are actually real with struggles. People are going through struggles. You're not the first one, and it is okay to go through them. And once we understand that, I think it will be easier for guys to deal with social media pressure.
Well, what do you have to say about social media, which I think half the time is trying to steal the parenting role from you, because they're busy trying to tell your child what to dress, how to dress, how your waist should be, who you should be dating, how many abs you should have for the guys, how many likes you should. So it's almost like there's this other beast that's trying to take your child's attention. and teens especially at such an impressionable stage of their lives, how should parents sort of manage that?
I think, like you're saying, it's another competing parent that's putting up unrealistic expectations of, what is expected of you. And this child is looking out to what they think is real. And to my thinking, a lot of that is not real. Like you said, I didn't wake up this way.
Yeah.
And so I think as parents, we need, even us, to lead by example. I know there are many parents who are living on social media. They're permanently on social media. We need to set realistic expectations for them. What is on that social media. For growing children, there must be a limit. There must be a limit to it, because one of the things is that we also become addicted to the smartphone. And you see, when one is depressed, they could actually run out, or when they have negative emotions, they run out to this gadget that's telling me very many good things, that's trying to lift my spirits up, and therefore you end up being there. That's another form of addiction. And we also know that when people are feeling bad, they go there and they actually connect with others who are feeling like them. So they don't help each other. And as a result, that's when you realize they're saying, I was feeling like committing suicide. And then the thoughts that probably were growing or had come up, they start to grow. So it has very many negative implications on teens' mental health. And also to mention, like she said, in life, when I'm feeling bad and we have sat and we are talking, we also teach, these young people will learn how to have conversations and how to express themselves. That is not so with social media. We could be seated here and we are having a conversation and we are here, or you're very near, you're next door. Instead of meeting and talking, we are on the phone. And so we are taking away skills that are communicative and that help us to develop the ability to express ourselves and express our needs, express our fears, express our strengths. So it's taking away a lot from us.
You touched a little on some of the effects that social media can have on our mental state. You talked a little bit about suicide. How else would you say that this can form? And addiction, because addiction is a form of mental illness, isn't it? So what are some of the other dangers of being online so much that could translate to it affecting our mental state and mental health negatively?
One of the things, when you're bringing up children, and this has been a great emphasis, all-rounded in terms of even physical activity. You go out there and you play football. This negative energy that you had is all brought out in the kicking and in the shouting and everything else that will not be found or realized if you are permanently on this gadget. And we know play is very important in as far as mental health is concerned. You shout it out, you feel better. You talk it out, you feel better. So that's been taken away from us through social media. And probably I mentioned earlier is, you're thinking of, you're feeling, but this is what we did last night. There was so much drinking, and we had this great time of socializing, that drinking was part of it and so on. And so that's what people are learning. That's what they can get to. And yet when you talk, you realize there are better ways of dealing with how I am feeling, so that the negative feelings do not become the norm. Then that becomes your normal emotions. Then you'll never know how it feels better, or how different it feels to feel good, to be normal. And so, yes, I think we, social media has really taken away a lot from us.
Yeah. Lorraine, I'm curious to know what your relationship with your parents is like, and if you felt comfortable to come to them at any point, whether you were struggling with academics or body image, or the FOMO that we talked about. What kind of relationship did you have, and how were they able to show up for you?
My mom is a teacher, so I think that was a plus, because my mom understands and she also does counseling.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So when the times when my grades were really low in high school, and I was in a national school, so the pressure in national school, you're not supposed to have low grades. So they're just encouraging me to try. Like, it's not the end of life, and you have to keep trying. Although at some point it took a toll on them, because like, what's not happening? It's a normal parent would do, and that I think helped a lot. But I think most of what I went through, my friends helped me to deal with personally, like my body insecurities.
Okay.
Because I couldn't go and tell my parents, Sasa, I do not feel like. But sometimes also, I think my mom also helps me a lot, because she'll be like, let's go run, let's do this together, from kitchen to beer, some things, or drink chia seeds, because they really help, such things. And there's fun in it, and it stops becoming a huge thing. It becomes easier to deal with. And also the joy of missing out. Funny enough, my parents knew these were things that I was going to go through. So when I was talking to them and telling them how I may want to go do this, and I was like, don't tell me you won't do it. It's okay, these things are there. Maybe at some point you'll feel like you want to do them. They gave me the reality. They did not pamper whatever, And they, you're a good girl, so they gave me the reality that these things are there. They actually happen. And it is not, even if they do happen, don't go ahead, and it's not the end of life. Because I can't say that I'm not that perfect. I've had times I have also strayed a bit, and that fact is knowing that it's okay. People fall and they get back up. That also helped a lot in terms of the formals, because I was like, oh well, maybe I went out a couple of times, maybe things happened. Yes, these things happen, and it's okay. I think that's a really huge role, instead of reprimanding and be like, I know you have failed, blah blah blah. That actually helped me. And I think lastly, on social media, one thing my dad keeps on emphasizing is that we eat together, and we have conversations, and we just have that family time. That has played an important role, because in the table and you're using your family, like no phones, that actually helped a lot too.
Wow, that's a great routine. So earlier, Margaret, you said you described some of the ways that depression can show up, which is great, because again, it's important for parents to be able to pick this up in their children as early as possible. So if someone's watching this and they start to think, they're more withdrawn, they're not really engaged, they're sort of crying more, and what are the next steps that parents could take in order for them to help their children out of this state?
A good question, because it is a parent who will realize that the child is different, not even that teacher who is in school. Then the first thing that you need to do is to seek for professional help, and that you are certain that there's a problem here. You have had a conversation with that child, and sometimes they may tell you how they're feeling, and sometimes even as a parent they may not tell you, because they do not even understand how they're feeling. They do not understand why they are the way they are. You ask them what is wrong, and they can't pinpoint on anything. They're just sad, and they're just feeling different. So professional help is important. And one of the things I think I need to mention, that diagnosing teenage depression among teens has not been very good, and therefore they go undiagnosed and definitely untreated. And reasons being is being moody and closing yourself out. I think that usually happens a lot among the young people.
So parents assume, it's just a phase. It's just, that's how they are.
Yes, having outbursts of mood, that just sounds like a normal experience. And so it goes undiagnosed and therefore untreated. And probably the reason why we are seeing a lot more of its complication in terms of suicide or suicide attempts, and also substance use, because if they're feeling so bad, then they can only numb their feelings using something like a substance. And so I think it's important for us, for every parent, to be able to know the symptoms so that they can be able to act quickly. And also not just parents. I think it's all of us that should know, because I may not be able to see it in my child, but somebody else can see it. A teacher can see it. Somebody within the church can see that, and therefore advocate for help. Yes.
There's a quote I heard last year that changed the way I look at kids, especially children who seem to be a little bit more rowdy, defiant. And it said that if we went from asking, what's wrong with that kid, to asking what happened to that kid, it would change a lot of lives. Because often it stems from somewhere. That kind of rebellion, it stems from a trauma or change in personality. Yeah, well, thank you, ladies. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Margaret, for sharing
Thank you for having me.
those wise gems. And I know it's something that a lot of parents will be able to pick up on and be able to run with as they go through their parenting journey. And Lorraine, Lorraine, like you're good. You're good, Lorraine. You're sorted. And God bless your parents because they did a great job raising raising you. And the world that we live in today, it's not always like it's not necessarily built to help support the young woman. And so for you to come out so strong and so bold and so self-aware, more power to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments on today's topic, please leave us a comment on our Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter page. We'd love to hear from you. It's Living with S across all 3 platforms. But for now, I'm gonna love you and leave you, and I'll see you back here tomorrow sharp, 8 a.m. sharp rather. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. Thank you to Parkin by Radisson for lending us your beautiful space, and you have yourself a great rest of the day. Bye, everybody.